Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to talk about a new Blizzard FPS game that was announced last week at BlizzCon. It's called Overwatch and it's actually a new IP. That's right, new intellectual property. This means it's not a World of Warcraft theme FPS or StarCraft FPS, it's its own thing. So not only is Blizzard making a new IP for the first time in 17 years, but they're also finally getting into the shooter business after about 23 years of making games. This is pretty phenomenal news, especially considering the caliber of game producer that Blizzard is. They're pretty much perfectionists and they bring a lot to the table. Now the cinematic trailer for Overwatch looks like something Pixar might have produced. Of course it's high production value like anything from Blizzard, but it's also got a cartoony feeling to it, very similar to what I would expect from a shooter game made from, say, Pixar's The Incredibles. And not surprisingly, many people have also drawn similarities between Overwatch and Valve's Team Fortress 2. Artistically and gameplay-wise, it seems like Blizzard may be doing what they are best at, taking an existing game genre and making it way freaking better. The original Warcraft from Dune 2, World of Warcraft from, say, EverQuest, Heroes of the Storm from League of Legends or Defense of the Ancients, and Hearthstone from Magic the Gathering, and I guess now Overwatch from Team Fortress 2. Is this really a bad thing? Certainly not in my opinion. Even though Blizzard isn't known for necessarily pioneering new game genres, they are known for perfecting them, and that's certainly something we need a lot of these days. Heck, if Blizzard wants to take a crack at Battlefield, I certainly wouldn't mind. Alright, so let's actually talk about the game. What do we know so far? We have seen 12 different playable heroes, all which have their own unique skill set. So they have their own guns, their own jump styles, their own hit points, their own super abilities. There seems to be a lot that's very specific to each player style, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot shared between the different heroes. Now the heroes themselves have been broken up into 4 different categories, or roles rather. They have the offensive role, the defensive role, the tank role, and the support role. However, rather than breaking it up into 3 classes per role, they've actually made 4 offensive classes, 3 defensive, only 2 tanks, and then 3 support classes. I really like just how unique each hero looks and how each play style looks. There certainly could be a lot more heroes by the time the game launches, but I imagine it's going to be somewhat of a task to balance out each new hero. And it definitely looks that rather than adding items and new guns to the game, they're probably just going to add new heroes that people can sort of get used to, learn their abilities, learn how to play them, and learn how to defend against them. Now there's 2 game modes that have been announced. The first one is Payload and the second one is Point Capture. Now Payload is essentially a direct copy of the Team Fortress 2 game mode of the same name. One team defends a moving payload through a map until it reaches its destination, while the other team basically tries to kill them, stop them, blow up the payload, push it back, whatever. Essentially in Overwatch, if nobody is manning the payload or on the payload or whatever you have to do to activate it, it's going to move backwards slowly, so you can actually lose progression. The game mode Point Capture is again divided into an offensive team and a defensive team. It's very similar to, say, a Battlefield game of Rush, but with only 1 stage of capture points. So one team has to defend 2 points from being captured for a given time limit. Obviously the game mode will become more difficult once 1 capture point is taken, because then all the defenders can put all their resources defending 1 point. So it seems like there will be a cool transition or progression of the gameplay in this mode as well. Team sizes are currently 6 players per team, and I imagine the whole game is going to be balanced around this player count. Now without question, this game is being tailored to the esports community. There's a large void in the esports FPS world because they tend to be very difficult to understand as a spectator sport. The game modes Blizzard has chosen for Overwatch sound like they could be pretty simple in principle, and this would make it easy for somebody who has never played the game before to quickly understand what the objectives are and what each team is fighting for. Then of course the depth of the game is where it becomes really fun to watch. If you've played it before, you understand all the hero abilities and what their specific roles are going to be, and you can gain a lot more from just watching the game. So in this regard, it seems like Blizzard is being very calculated about what they want Overwatch to become. Currently it's only been announced for the PC, but that isn't to say there aren't console plans as well. Blizzard's usually pretty secretive about this stuff, and if they aren't 100% sure that it's coming out on console, then they're certainly not going to give you any inclination that it might happen. At first glance it seems like it's going to be a free-to-play game, but apparently Blizzard is still trying to decide on how they want to sell this game. On one hand, a free-to-play free-to-play game greatly increases your player base, but on the other hand, to make money with a free-to-play game, you have to have tons of purchasable items and junk in the game that might actually take away from its strategic purity. Now, some of the hero abilities in the game seem to be pretty much identical to some of the abilities in Team Fortress 2. For example, the dwarf can make a turret that looks almost identical to the one in TF2, both the building process, the resources you need, and what the turret does. But then we see heroes like Reaper who can jump into the middle of a group of people, trigger an AoE gun flurry ability, which seems much more like a MOBA style game. So there's definitely some elements here that are not what we would expect from your average Team Fortress 2 or general shooter. Blizzard is definitely implementing some other things that are popular to other genres. Now, based on people who have actually played the game at BlizzCon, it seems like a lot of the hero abilities will charge based on your playstyle, and they'll be pretty unique in the way that they charge up. So if you have, say, the healing class, your super ability will charge up based on how many players you heal. If you have the dwarf that builds turrets, he has to actually collect scrap metal around the map to build the turret. And some of the heroes actually have passive chargers that will just basically charge over time no matter what. So depending on what class you play, you may have to change up your playstyle very drastically. And it might actually facilitate focusing on just a few heroes that you play, much like your average MOBA game. It all seems pretty well thought out, but this definitely means that adding new heroes to the game is probably going to be a complex process, and also balancing the game is going to be pretty complicated as well. Fortunately, there's going to be a pretty extensive beta if it's anything like previous Blizzard games, and you can actually go to Blizzard's website and sign up for that beta right now if you'd like, and hopefully get in early 2015 is what they're speculating. Anyway, it's pretty clear that Blizzard has sunk a lot of time into this game. The artwork is crazy, it's very cartoony, but also extremely well done, and I'm excited to see what happens with this game. It's certainly not going to appeal to maybe the hardcore military shooter market. It's just cartoony, it's kind of crazy all over the place, but if you want an arena shooter or something that looks like it could be the next big competitive esports FPS, then certainly keep your eyes peeled for any news on this game. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.